see me, and you know me, and you love me through and through. A couple things I've learned with the Oasis. The biggest thing that comes to mind is just the importance of finding Jesus in people's stories and trusting that he alone is powerful enough to change somebody's heart. I think we spent a lot of time talking about how so much would change and so much would just be brought to light, and there'd be so much hope and so much healing if we spent more time just talking about Jesus because of who he is. And so I think a major takeaway for me was just learning to trust that if all I do is talk about Jesus with somebody, then that's more than enough, because I'm pointing them to the one who is able to change and heal and restore and redeem their heart, and that I can trust that Jesus is just as powerful and impactful now as he was when he was on the earth. That's probably the biggest thing. And outside of that, I think I've learned just how to be so much bolder and take Jesus in ministry and invite him into everything I'm doing, no matter what that is, whether that's singing for somebody or just visiting somebody or sitting outside on the front lawn of my house, just being so open and making time and room to dedicate everything I'm doing to Jesus. One of those significant stories from the summer, and I think a good example of what it's like to be bold and bring Jesus to anything, was just getting to sing at a nonprofit cafe over the summer and getting to sing worship music and learn how to boldly sing about the name of Jesus in a place that I never thought I would do that. And I think that story was a really great reflection of just being open and trusting the Lord with wherever we go, because I think I never thought that would have been an opportunity, but Jesus really opened the door for me to be able to sing there. So that was a really cool reminder and a really cool example for me this summer of getting to be bold and take Jesus with me wherever I go. One story this summer as well, I was able to meet up with a church in Fort Collins that has a ministry centered around a trailer park in Fort Collins, and they serve a lot of Spanish speakers and people who aren't commonly reached by the church. And I met with this woman who is on their staff, and she is a social worker, and that's a big part of my life as well. I study social work, and we just started talking about the church and social work and trying to reach people that maybe aren't as commonly reached. And she said this one thing that I think will always stick with me, and she talked about how when the church is the change agent, nothing is more powerful, because we're pairing change and reaching out with Jesus and his power. And I think that conversation for me was so encouraging, just that we as the church have so much power and we're able to enact so much change because of the power of Jesus and the way that he restores things, and that also no change effort, no effort in this world will ever compare to the power we have with Jesus. So that was a very encouraging conversation and very eye-opening for me, and something I definitely want to take forward with me whenever I think about doing outreach or working with people, because we can't do it without Jesus and his power. Another story that comes to mind is the first time that me and Brian went to Old Town together, and it was my first time ever going into Old Town with the intention of talking to people. And one thing that Brian always said to me all summer was just to be up and out, learning the practice of not focusing internally, not thinking inwardly, but being up and out and looking around and seeing who is available and maybe who the Lord wants you to get to know. So we were walking and we kept saying, okay, we're going to pray. We're going to take time and pray through this. And every single time somebody would come up and start talking, or we would just bump into somebody. And the first time was this musician that approached us actually and started telling us all about his life and his story, and was just so excited to connect with us and played his music for us. And we got to encourage him and listen to him for a while. And then we kind of started walking again, and we bumped into another musician who was from out of the country and started listening to them play piano. We were able to encourage them and just talk to them about their life and their story. And we bumped into another person who was just trying to fill out a poll in Fort Collins and learned all about their story, and kind of just had so many similar interactions again and again. And that was such an interesting experience, because it is so true that people want to talk and they want to be known. And when you're focusing up and out, it's so interesting how many conversations you can have and how many people you can bump into and just start knowing all about their life and their story and continue to see them again whenever you go back. So that was a really cool learning experience. And more than that, I think something else that this summer really showed me and that Brian was really good at driving home was how music is used in that. The first person who came up to us only came up to us because we had a guitar with us. And I think that was a really interesting thing I learned over the summer, as well as how to use music and how many people you can connect to through music, and that is such a cool bridge to be able to learn more about people and hear their story and hear their life. There's one thing that comes to mind when I think about why somebody should consider doing an internship or consider working with the Oasis or a ministry like this. And there was one time in Old Town, I remember, where we were talking to this couple and they asked Brian if he was an evangelist, and Brian said, "No, I am not an evangelist. I just like to talk to people about Jesus and live Jesus out." And Brian maybe doesn't even remember that, but I think about it a lot because I think for me, this internship really challenged the way I thought about Christianity. It challenged the way I thought about evangelism, about showing people Jesus. And I think it isn't the way we think about it commonly. I think all it really does boil down to is just being like Jesus, living like Jesus, going to where Jesus would have gone, talking how Jesus would have talked, like just embodying him so deeply. And I had the privilege and the honor of watching Brian exemplify that so well, but also learning how to begin to live that out. And so I think this internship is incredibly beneficial and definitely something that should be considered if you want to understand more of how to just live like Jesus wherever you are, and not let that be so scary or so big, but just let it be an everyday thing that is so manageable and doable and beautiful and powerful. And yeah, just such a fun experience for me, and I highly recommend it. So.